Hello Disney fans, today I'm going to be talking to you about a Disney Plus original, and if you don't already have Disney Plus, I hope you get it soon because it has so many amazing movies and television shows. You're going to love it if you're able to get it, and there's so many memories to relive. It's really what this channel is all about, remember the magic, and they have a lot of original movies that you're not going to find on DVD, in theaters, shown on television. It's your only way to see them. And one of those that I'm going to be talking about today is Togo. But before I can talk about Togo, I've got to talk about another non-Disney movie that you may have seen, and that's Balto. Now, Balto is an animated movie, and it tells the story of a wolf dog living on the outskirts of Nome, Alaska. He's not really accepted because he is half wolf, and everyone assumes that means he's going to be dangerous and he's going to turn on people, so they kind of keep him at a distance. But of course, he becomes a hero when there's a diphtheria outbreak in the town of Nome, and the only way to get medicine there is by dog sled team. This team that's supposed to bring it to Nome gets lost. He has to go out and find them and bring them back. And it has wonderful messages about acceptance, not only accepting others, but accepting who you are, because Balto eventually learns the only way he's going to succeed is to embrace the wolf half of himself. Now, great movie, beautifully drawn, great story, but of course it isn't the real story, even though it says it's based on a true story, and it is. But in real life, Balto was one of 20 lead dogs, who brought the medicine to Nome. He wasn't the only dog involved, not by a long shot, and he didn't go out to bring the team back, although his driver, because I'm going to get into a bit more about who his actual owner was. His driver had to rely on him to find their way because the snow was so bad that day you could not even see the dogs in front of you, and it was 50 below. So you had to really rely on your dog to get you through. So not to say that Balto wasn't a special dog, but he was one of 20 lead dogs, and Togo tells the story of another one of those dogs. Now at this point you might be asking, okay, so Balto was only one of only 20 lead dogs. He was great, but he wasn't the way the movie showed him. Why does Togo deserve the recognition? Well, the fact is Balto got a lot of recognition in his lifetime because he was the dog who finally brought it into Nome itself, not one of the ones who started further back. And of course, people were waiting at the town line to bring him in, and they were taking pictures of him, and they were writing news stories about him, and he was really famous within his lifetime. He actually starred in his own movie. There were newspaper articles about him everywhere. If you lived at that time, there's no chance you wouldn't have known who Balto was. Togo didn't get the recognition that he so rightfully deserved, and he deserved a lot of the credit for the run because he and his team, driven by Leonard Shepla, drove 264 miles to bring the medicine to where it needed to be. The other teams averaged 31 miles each, still highly impressive, but it wasn't the 264 miles. And Togo did that at the age of 12, well past when a lot of sled dogs are already retired. Now the movie goes into what makes Togo such a special dog and why he was able to do this, and I was impressed at how true to life they kept it. A lot of the incidents that they show in the movie that you would think are fictional actually happened with this dog. One of them shows his spirit as a puppy. His owner gave him away twice because he thought this dog would never amount to anything. He was born with a throat condition as a puppy, and it was actually Shepla's wife who saw him through that and saw what a great dog he would be. And not only had he been sickly as a puppy, he was undersized and he was nothing but trouble. This dog escaped the kennels. He chased the other teams. He chased reindeer and you couldn't catch him. He was basically any dog owner's nightmare, and Shepla basically had it with him. But when he gave Togo away a second time, Togo jumped through a closed glass window while he was still only about half grown. He was still basically a puppy at the time, and ran miles to get back to Shepla. Now the movie shows at that point he was fed up with the dog. He thought, okay, you want to run, let's get up to the sled and we'll run you till you tire out. He outlasted every other dog on that team. Shepla would take one dog, put him in the sled, and run Togo, take another dog, run Togo in their place, and by the end of the run, Togo was lead dog. That's only slightly different from what happened in real life. In real life, the way Togo finally got the recognition of his owner was he broke out of the kennel for about the millionth time, and by the time he caught up with the team, Shepla was too far ahead to turn back, so he thought, okay, I'll hook you up, and that's one way to keep you out of trouble. And on that run, Togo did work himself up to a shared lead dog position by the end of it, and by that time, Sepla had complete trust in the lead dog he would become. And that's one of the reasons why he chose Togo for this, even though Togo was well past the age when he probably shouldn't have gone on any competitive run, much less something like this. He knew he could trust him, and in that kind of situation, you have to be able to trust your dog. Now, Togo was shown a little more sickly than he was throughout the movie. It showed the run to be harder. And that's one of the few changes from history. In fact, I wish they would have shown one of the real historical things in it. It would have shown Togo's character, even though they already do a beautiful job of that. After the sermon was done, when he was out of the sled harness, and before they could head home, he actually ran after some caribou again and was lost for a couple days before he found his way back to the team. So this was a dog that nothing held down in real life. He was the Energizer Bunny of the dog world. This movie shows the incredible spirit that he had, and I honestly don't know why this movie wasn't made by Disney before, because all the things that make a good Disney movie were already there in his story. I mean, how many times haven't you heard a story where the one no one believes in becomes the hero, or someone who's undersized becomes the hero? The troublemaker ends up becoming the hero. Those were all part of Togo. They also did a fantastic job in casting. The dog who played him is a very cute, very clever dog, had to have been to learn all the commands, and the man they have playing Leonard Sepla looks exactly like the pictures of him. Now, I said I'd go a little bit more into the owners of the story and what I want to talk people who own the dog, and I want to talk a little bit more into what happened to the dogs after the run. Togo wasn't quite up to sled dog racing after that. Sepla had been a dog race person. He wasn't a work dog person so much. Now, a lot of his huskies were lent out to other people. They would rent them for working dogs. Now, Balto's runner, Gunnar Carson, had rented Balto from Sepla. So, Sepla knew both dogs, and it says a lot that he put that much trust in Togo over Balto. He didn't dislike Balto, but Balto wasn't really on his radar to be noticed as much. Now, after the sled dog run, Balto was eventually sold to where he was viewed as sadly almost a freak show side attraction, but he was eventually bought by someone who knew his story, said this dog deserves better, and he took him to his own special run along with the members of his team, where people could come and visit him, and he could basically live the relaxed, retired life of a dog at the Cleveland Zoo, and he's remembered there to this day. Togo got a little bit luckier. He got to father a lot of puppies in his lifetime, and if you have a husky, especially a Sepla husky, there's a really good chance he's descended from Togo. Now, these dogs they don't have to run not every one of them has to run like Togo did, but they are well known for their loyalty to their owners that Togo shows. And there's a great line at the end of the movie where Sepla says he thought that Togo always did what he did for love of sledding, and he realizes that Togo did it for love of him. The puppy that they have playing Togo, it's so fun to see him get into all that mischief. You could really see the personality, like I said, and it shows how an animal can change a person too, because by the end of his relationship with Togo, Sepla's a much softer-hearted person. He's still going to do what has to be done, but he realizes the value of these animals as more than someone to work with. He realizes the value as a friendship. He tells his wife at one point in the movie, these are working dogs, they're not our friends, they're not our children. And by the end of the story, he really comes to change his tune. So there's a lot of miracles in the story, and I really hope that you give it a chance to see it, and that I really think you'll enjoy it as much as I do. And it's high time that all these dogs got the recognition that they deserve. There's so many hero animals in the world, but it's really cool that they include as a last factoid in the movie that Time magazine declared Togo the most heroic animal of all time in 2011. So he's finally getting the recognition he deserves, and so hopefully a lot of people will see this and enjoy. And as always, remember the magic.